This is Continuum Drag, a podcast where we watch sci-fi, fantasy, and everything in between. This week, Moonbase 3, episodes 5 and 6.
Acceleration, lateral left maneuver. Here it is, a transient.
Transient?
A ghost signal on Tom's computer.
Yes, well, they happen sometimes. We just don't know why. An electronic impulse is set up which gives a rogue command.
And this one fired full power?
What's maximum velocity in the hypergolics?
158,400 meters per second.
And the combined load?
10 tons, 8 for Omicron, 2 for the craft.
Full power was 1.19 seconds.
0.19 would have been enough
To do what?
to push Tom out of Earth orbit into deep space.
Welcome to Continuum Drag, the podcast trying to win the golden handshake. I'm Luke, here with my co-host Jordan. What's real, Jordan?
I don't remember that reference. Which episode was that?
It was very, very briefly in the last episode. They turned on TV and the golden handshake is playing at some sort of game show.
Oh, I thought it was a thing where David was like, "You won the golden handshake."
Yeah, he's a lot like Paul Hollywood. He walks around the office handing out golden handshakes when you do a good job.
I love. Oh, I think that's that. Of how many episodes have we done? 291. That's our first Great British Bake Off reference.
You still a watcher?
Of
Great
course.
British Bake Off?
Of course I am. Yeah.
It's been a few years for me.
It's still worth it.
Great. I'll track it down. All right, Jordan. We have reached the end of the 6-episode run of Moonbase 3. That's all they made. It was unloved in its time and canceled with disappointing... Not canceled, but they just never renewed it. It had disappointing ratings for the BBC. And I guess this podcast will find out if it's still unloved in our time when we rate it.
Yeah. Oh, and I should say though, it's a good point that you say like not necessarily canceled, but it decided not to be renewed because you have to remember this is a British show and they do
6 is normal.
Still do 6 is normal. So like it wasn't like another show that we're watching that podcasts are coming out roughly at the same time, which is Time Express. Is Time Express?
I believe it's Time Express.
Yeah, I don't know why this sounded wrong. Anyways, but like that only did 4 episodes. That's because it was. No one wanted one anymore. You know?
Yeah, that one is very different than this one, that's for sure in some ways. Well, Jordan, before we get into it, I got a little game for us to play for this final episode on Moonbase 3. It is a game we've played before. It's where you pick, there's going to be 3 characters and you decide between them kind of from 3 options.
Yeah.
Very much based on a classic children's game. But I've renamed the 3 options, which hopefully will make sense. I had trouble doing this, so we'll see. Here are your 3 options for the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Promote to director of your Moonbase.
Right.
So that one's more of a long-term commitment.
Yeah.
Have an inappropriate inter-office relationship with.
Right, yeah.
And finally, put on a space shuttle with a pilot you know is going to crash it.
That one's good. You know what? I was sure you were going to say just sort of sit on the space station and wait for your resources to run out and just die slowly. So those are good.
All right. So you got the 3 options. I guess we can break them down to promote to director, inappropriate relationship, or crash.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
So your first category for this is 3 characters. Key staff.
Mm-hmm.
There's Dr. Michelle Lebrun,
Yeah.
of course, the second in command.
Yeah.
Dr. Helen Smith, the station's psychological director, and Tom Hill, the fix-it man.
Oh, I thought you were going to say David because I knew exactly what I was going to do with that.
Jordan, I'll tell you something right now. Yeah. David's not in this quiz because I know exactly what you want to do with David.
He was getting what's the option? I just killing him, but what's it called?
I don't think we've done a single podcast on the show where you haven't just gone insanely angry with David Calder.
I hate him. I hate the character. Although I just say, as we're playing the game, he's not that bad in these 2 episodes. I still don't like the character, but he doesn't. I don't know if he does. That's actually, I take that back. He's bad. I just remembered the second episode. I would say, I think Michelle should be promoted because that's what he really wanted from the beginning.
Oh, really? You want to make him the director of your Moonbase?
I think so. Yeah, it's what he wanted. He's a ladder climber, you know. And then weirdly, I'm gonna I think I'm gonna have a inter-office relationship with what's her face, just because I feel bad for her, and I think that's the only thing that they ever do with her in this show. So we might as well
you're
continue,
gonna continue that trend.
Yeah. No. Actually, you know what? You're right. I'm gonna switch it up. I'm gonna have an inappropriate relationship with Tom, and I guess kill her.
A crazy set of choices on your part.
Mm-hmm. I just, it's not like this matters.
LeBrun is. I would put him as my least favorite character.
Oh, I don't like him. He wanted it.
You just chose to spend the rest of your life with him.
Yeah, that's true. Hey, that's the roll of the dice.
Hey, man. I guess to each their own. That's what you're into.
Yeah.
All right. Your next category, Jordan, is unhinged scientists.
Lovely.
There's Professor Heinz Liebenthal, who was the scientist who found the ice on the moon but wouldn't tell anybody until a bunch of people died and he exploded.
Yeah, he's pretty bad.
There's Adam Blaney, who was gaslighting his coworkers while causing all these problems and then blaming it on them, and then trying to convince that one guy his wife was cheating on him.
Oh yeah, he was also bad.
And then there's Stephen Partness, the guy who found that rock and then faked all his results to try not to get kicked off Moonbase, but everybody hated him for some reason.
I love, by the way, how bad the personnel and the hiring procedures are for Moonbase 3. But anyways, the Rock Boy, I'm gonna promote him. No one likes him, but I like him. He was promoted.
Unfairly maligned. I agree.
Yeah. I think. Of the next two, I guess I'm gonna have a relationship with the guy Ice Boy, Ice Doctor, and the guy the Gossip. I didn't like him. Let's jettison him out.
All right, I can agree with you on these choices then.
Yeah, you like these ones?
These ones make more sense to me.
While we were discussing this, I thought in my head, I'm like, man, I made some really wild choices in the first one.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on in that first one. All right, one last category here for you, Jordan. Mm-hmm. It's called Outsiders.
I like it.
It is characters who who are not living on Moonbase 3. They're from other places.
Oh, I thought it was Bad Boys.
Oh, I'm afraid not. There are no bad boys on Moonbase, just incompetent boys.
Yeah, that's true. They could use a few bad boys.
All right. There is Commander Bill Jackson, who's the director of the U.S. Moonbase, I believe Moonbase 1.
Yeah.
There's Colonel Dmitry Garanov, who we meet in these 2 episodes of the show. He's the hotshot Russian pilot.
Oh yeah. We don't really learn much about him, huh?
He's hotshot though. Hotshot.
He's hotshot. He's hotshot. Yeah. Okay.
And there's Sir Benjamin Dice, also from these 2 episodes, the old scientist who comes up from Earth and is supposed to be, I guess they're I don't know, Einstein or something, or they're.
He's the guy in this last episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's getting killed.
Really?
Didn't care for him at all.
Crashing him.
Yeah, crashing him. Thank you. I think I'm gonna have. I think Jackson, is his name Jackson?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Commander
he's
Jackson.
gonna get promoted. He's
Nice.
proved his worth, and then I'll have a relationship with the other guy.
Okay, I do agree with this. I think I love Commander Bill Jackson. Remember when he was told that 2 people died? He's just like, oh, that's bad.
Yeah, I think we should have seen more of him.
I will say I'm a little surprised that you killed Sir Benjamin Dice, if only because he's also Batman's butler.
Is that who that was?
That was Batman's butler from the Tim Burton movies.
It was Michael Goo?
I don't have the
Go.
Yeah, Michael Goo. Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, or whatever he pronounces it, Go or whatever his last name. You know what's funny? I forgot to look it up. I was watching the episode going, this guy is so familiar. I've seen him in something, and then I just forgot to look it up. So there you go. But his character's awful.
It's funny because it's when is this out? Early 80s? He's so old on this. I'm like, how is this Batman's butler? And I looked and he looks younger in the Batman movies. They really made him look old in this.
I think part of it is it might also be a bit of the Steve Martin thing, right? People going gray really early.
He has wild hair in this episode. Anyway,
he does have
matter.
wild hair. Yeah.
Alfred Pennyworth drops by as
that's right.
Scientist Man.
Big get for them.
Anyway, let's get into it, Jordan. Here's the
it.
IMDb summary for episode 5, Castor and Pollux. Well, Calder explores the possibilities of participating in a joint expedition to Jupiter with the Russians. An accident during a routine docking maneuver with a satellite leaves a shuttle with Tom Hill on board tumbling out into deep space. Calder mounts a rescue mission, but must convince the Russians to help him. And that was courtesy of Gus F.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Gus F. He does a lot of the TV show.
We've encountered him many times. He's a prolific IMDb summary writer.
Yeah, good for him. He's really saving us time and time again. Here's the thing. I have some thoughts on this, but I'll wait halfway through because there's something I want to discuss with you, and it's about how this episode could have been better. You know.
So you want to start with that, or do you want to end with
it? No. We'll do it as it goes. I'm just mentioning that
You've got a bunch of notes for them.
I think there's a better episode in here, and I feel this almost in every episode I'm watching the show. But halfway through, I'm like, you know what you guys should have done and actually made this a good TV show. But it's like they're like willfully won't do it. They're like, what is the most boring, surface level episode we could possibly do where nothing happens? And they're like, yes, let's do that. All
right, great. Well, we'll punch it up as we go.
That's a teaser. That's a teaser in the biz. It's a precap.
The episode starts, it sort of introduces the two core storylines, like pretty much in the first 30 seconds, which is nice for this show. Just like, here's what's going to happen this show. One, there's a monitoring station somewhere in space that picks up an error signal from the weather satellite Omicron 4 and basically calls up Moonbase 3 and it's like, hey, get Tom Hill, let him know there's an error on this. And we sort of set up that Tom Hill's going to have to do something about an error on a satellite. And the other thing that's being set up is Tom Hill can't be reached because he's with director David Calder as he hosts a cocktail party for the Russians who are come over from their moon base because David Calder is going to attempt to convince them to collaborate and share resources to help alleviate the financial pressures on his moon base, to try to get the moon bases to work together.
I had a question on that because they sort of really play well, they don't really play. They sort of hint at sort of the what I'd almost say is an almost Cold War conflict. Not really, but the same sort of like slight antagonism between the Russians and the West, for lack of a better term. Did you feel like throughout the show, because this is episode 5, and we've seen the American base, and now I think we've saw, was it the Chinese base before?
Yes.
And now we'll have the Russian base. How did you feel the conversations were between them? Because it seemed all fairly professional and fairly copacetic. Like, do you think this was an outlier, or do you think this is a bit of a retcon, or is this just something they didn't push into enough?
No, I think it is mostly that they understand, or they assume the audience understands, that there are like these superpowers and they don't really work together.
Yeah.
Much like in their day, much probably like in our day, the Cold War was brewing then, and like there was a divide. But scientists themselves, I think in that period, were like, this is dumb, we should all be working together. And I think the idea is like there's tensions on Earth, but on the moon base, there's no reason that scientists can't just get along.
Yeah. I guess one of my major issues is I think there was something to play with here. And again, it doesn't feel like they were terribly successful with it. It's there. It's definitely one of the plot points. It's definitely something that propels the episode forward. But there isn't really any meat on it. Do you know what I mean? Like, did you ever feel any real tension between these two, let's say, two major powers and trying to solve a problem?
No, I mean, I think that is just meant to be like understood for the audience. So, I think at the time they're just like, Russia and us are kind of at odds, but like scientists can get along is like the moral of the story. I think they felt like they didn't need to get into it because, they knew it's like U.S. is a superpower, they do what they want. Russia's a superpower, they do what they want. China's a superpower, they do what they want. And of course, Brazil, huge superpower, always doing whatever it wants.
But maybe you're right. Maybe what I was stumbling over a little bit is what they're assuming the audience is taking into it. Like, what this conflict is, so we don't need to talk about it. Whereas I felt it was lacking. Like, it was like they just didn't bother.
They didn't use it for any drama. They weren't like, let's now get some drama into
exactly.
It. It didn't really happen, no, for sure.
Right. Anyways, it's an interesting setup for an episode. Again, the choices they make are odd, I find.
You would have liked a little more about that.
I would like a little bit. I think there's something to be said about different ways of looking at things, different ways of doing things, having to put yourself in uncomfortable situations or in maybe a subservient position, or to the greater good is better than your ego. Or there's other ways to play it. I think there was something there.
Fair enough. What rushes into it, they're like, hey, we're planning a mission to Jupiter. It's manned. We could collaborate on that. It's expensive, like $54 billion. But if you want to get in on it, we're building this cool spaceship that breaks into like 5 or 6 pieces. They spend like, they use their hands to like indicate it. I'm just like waiting for them to be like, say Russian nesting doll. You're describing a Russian nesting doll.
That's funny. I never thought of that.
But they never do. And they never comes back. But the idea being that like they've got cool projects. Russia's up to some cool science. Maybe Britain, maybe the UK. Sorry, not even the UK. I said Britain and UK is the same thing. The European like conglomerate of space agencies can get in on it or something.
I just remember they talked about speed and kilometers a lot, like a lot.
A lot of science talk.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's not really what's important. What is important is that we find out Tom Hill is some sort of space rock star.
Yeah, well, you know what? I actually didn't mind that because in the first episode, they had a similar sort of thing where someone was like, he has this history or this renown of being
he saved that cat.
He's done these things before. He's kind of was a bit of a hot dog pilot, or to some effect, because this is like the second, maybe even the third time they've mentioned that people know him from his past. I think this is sort of implied that this is not a retirement gig, but this is a job where he has settled down a little bit, you know?
It is interesting because I do know what you're talking about. They have definitely implied he has a history in space. He's an early astronaut who's done a lot of amazing things. What I love is the hotshot Russian astronaut, Colonel Dmitry, is just like, dude, I had posters of you in my room. And I was like, there were posters of Tom Hill available?
It's a little far because the idea that like other pilots would know who he is like, yeah, that's their world. That's what they like. Do you know what I mean? Like you're a scientist who's an astronaut who's also a pilot. You would like the guy who's the coolest guy. But like if you're just a kid growing up, you don't have a poster of an astronaut on your wall.
I'm not sure. He did imply that it was when he was in flight school and he just said pictures on his wall. But nonetheless, all of it was just like still very crazy to imagine just pictures of just Tom Hill everywhere.
Yeah. It's just him. It's him leaning backwards against his name. You know.
Yeah, I do love the idea, the graphic design that would go into these. Anyway, Calder and Tom get the report of the error on the Omicron satellite, and Tom immediately is just like, I'll head out and fix it. It's an easy fix. I'll just fly out there and do it. And Calder's like, great. I'm not going to tell anyone on Earth because I don't want us to get in trouble. His classic move is like, something's gone wrong. Don't tell anybody on Earth. I don't want to get in trouble.
It's funny over and over. Do you get the sense that David is one of these people, and I've worked with a few people like this, where they're sort of like, just don't say anything. Hopefully you don't get in trouble, and when it kind of happens, it's too late to do anything. And those seem to be the people that climb ladders very quickly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, I would say, like, I get the idea of a guy who's just like, listen, small error, let's just fix it before anyone knows, and then, like, I'll have it on a report at the end of the month to say there was, like, this bleep, we fixed it, no one cares, as opposed to, like, reporting to your boss every small thing that goes wrong. The only difference is for Calder, it's just, like, people are killing themselves, and he's just like, just write it down as, like, as an accident, and we'll just pretend it didn't happen. Like, the things he's constantly hiding from his bosses are, like, so bad that, like, everything he hides now is like, I'm like, uh-oh, he's up to it again.
Well, he had a death in the first episode.
He hides so many things from his superiors. It's crazy. Like, major problems.
Yeah.
Anyway, Tom flies out there, gets on a ship, he flies out there, and as he's docking with his shuttle with this satellite, a rogue command, some sort of ghost in the machine, causes a momentary power surge, which as he's kind of like doing the docking mechanism with the like they're supposed to like, you know, click together the two pieces.
Yeah.
It fires his engines to full power for a quick second and basically jams his ship into the satellite and gets it caught, and also knocks the satellite out of orbit and has the most spin off into deep space.
Yeah, and I think they also say, like, I think something happens, so like he can't open his doors, he can't do anything, like he's stuck. Well,
there's also as he's getting there, he's just like, oh, I got a weird error message on the other airlock as I was getting here. I'm sure it's nothing. And then as soon as this happens, he's like, oh, and my other airlock's also broken for other reasons. And I'm like, okay.
They want to really establish it's bad.
Yeah. He has no escape from this ship. He's basically trapped in here. It's spiraling off into deep space. Calder, of course, wants to mount a rescue mission. They have to do it in kind of like a 12-hour window, so the clock is ticking. And the odds of success seem low because it's going to be a very difficult maneuver to get there. There's no clear way to get him out. And you could possibly like threaten other lives. Whoever goes to do it is like taking a huge risk.
Yeah, and there's a scene where Michelle and David, they just argue for what seems like ever about like, is it worth to save the guy?
Well, that's what's happening here. Is LeBrun, obviously, as has been true for his character and continues to be true, is kind of one note. He just doesn't like Calder's administration style. And so in this particular case, obviously, he objects to risking the equipment, risking the lives to this failure of a mission. And like, no joke, Jordan, I don't know if you caught this. At some point during this argument, he looks at Calder and says, "It is not logical." And I was like, oh, there he is. He's Spock.
I did not catch that. But it's interesting because I got what they were trying to do, and they've done this quite a few times on the show, which is they want to have two different viewpoints, and the argument, you kind of see what the best way forward of solving this problem is. But I don't know if, like, you know, you want to have both these people be right. You know, they're arguing, but they're both right. You can see both their sides. But it's hard to see Michelle's side because they're saying, like, it's going to be really impossible stuff. But he's like, at no point do they say, it's not like they have to send, like, 50 people or 1,000 people. It's not like by saving him, there's a chance they're going to kill everyone on the ship. Like, maybe it's going to be 1 for 1 or something like that. You know what I mean? The person who goes to save him maybe not able to do it. But, like, it's an argument where it's like, it's not worth it. And his argument's like financial or time or whatever. And it's like, I don't think it's a good enough argument even for his character to make.
It's tough. Every time he comes off as kind of just a bean counter, and like Calder's not like the most rootable main character, so you'd think it would be easier to find someone to like. It would accidentally be that you would root, but Michelle's actually so much more annoying in some ways that you never root for him either.
Yeah, because Calder's saying the right thing. He's what you want for your protagonist of the show, which is, I don't care. I want to save this guy. It's worth it. It's the
we need to try at least. We need to at least try.
And it's like, that's the thing. He's like, we need to at least try. Michelle's like, no, it's not worth trying. It's like, it's not worth trying. You can't even have the conversation of what that would look like.
You can't
like,
even
it's
have a
so
discussion.
Dumb.
You can't even like compromise here. Like, no, we cannot try.
It would literally be the point where, like, after you saved him, I'm like, so Michelle, we're letting you go because you're not a team player, you're actually dangerous in how a little you want to work with your coworkers. I think it's time for you to go.
Your lack of sympathy for any of them.
Yeah, like, see you later, Spock.
Anyway, LeBrun actually, he does have a hero in the field of administration, and that's the director of the Russian Moonbase. We see very early on he's in a session with Dr. Smith, his psychologist, and he's just like, man, I wish we had that director of the Russian Moonbase working here. He's such a hotshot administrator who always does the bean counting just the way I like it.
That's right. Yeah.
And basically, this Russian director agrees with LeBrun's assessment. He's like, it's not worth going after him. It's too big a risk. So when Calder calls him up, he says, like, listen, we need to borrow Dmitri, our hotshot astronaut. He's the only one who can rescue Tom Hill. And obviously, like, he loves Tom Hill. He'll do it. He's just like, I can't spare him, man. If we lose him before this Jupiter mission, my Jupiter mission's done. So I can't let him go. So Calder's kind of in a tough spot. Who's he going to send to save Tom Hill? So he kind of lets the news leak out via informal communication so that it gets to Dmitri that Tom Hill's in trouble. So Dmitri comes to the base on his own and basically volunteers for the mission. And it's great. He's just like, I'm going to go save Tom Hill. And Calder's like, you didn't tell your boss, did you? He's like, no. He's like, well, I'm going to pretend I don't know that.
See, I get what they're doing in the show. I'm like, this is the least evocative way you could do this for a TV show. Instead of having like a good scene where the guy's like, I don't care, I'm doing whatever I can. He has an argument or he fights his way out or whatever. They're like, ooh, we implied it to someone else and someone said something else. And then it's all off screen. And it's like, oh, you guys are all so boring. Someone do something. Like, hey, off screen, someone implied something. Did you hear it? Not me. Like, oh, I'm glad this is on TV.
Well, I did like the scene because when everyone's saying it's impossible, they actually call Tom Hill up and he's just like, yeah, don't worry about me. Just let me go. It's fine. And he just pulls out a suicide pill and holds it up. It's like, oh, whoa.
Yeah. Okay. So here's my idea. And actually, after watching, I know we're going to speak of the next episode 6. It could kind of work for both episodes. But here's what I thought would be a better episode. So Tom goes off. He gets stuck and he's blah, blah, blah. And he's everything's the same. Forget all the stuff about Russian stuff because it doesn't work and it's boring anyways. Do you remember, and it always goes back to Star Trek, do you remember there was a Deep Space Nine episode called Hard Time where O'Brien is accused of espionage and he's sentenced to 20 years in prison? And then he's in there for a long time. Yeah, and he finds out, and like he's there for 20 years. He goes through this hard time. He creates this relationship with this other guy. And then at the very end, you find it's this reality like simulation. And he's just been gone for like whatever it is, a half an hour or something like that, an hour. And it's a great episode. It's a great episode to build his character. It's a great episode for him to like come to terms with his life and what his thoughts and morals are, and how he's actually changed as a person because he's lived this life and now has to go back to, you know, the status quo. It's a really interesting concept. That's what they could have done. They could have been Tom stuck in space. He doesn't think he's going to be able to get back, and he has to wrestle with these demons. He has to figure out, like, it's essentially a bottle episode. It's him by himself going through these motions, and maybe it's because he doesn't know that, oh, they're coming. They've actually already solved the problem. They're going to be here in 30 minutes, but he's going through this whole thing. I actually think that would be an episode that has some meat on the bones, whereas this is like, oh, wait, eventually the Russians are going to come, and I guess that's good, and we're going to solve this problem we said was impossible. Thanks, Michelle.
Well, I can see what you're saying. I mean, it would be the first time we learned anything about anyone's character, their backstory, their interiority.
Yeah, there's that, yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely not going to happen this episode, because to get Dimitri on board, he's going to fly out there. They come up with a plan. Essentially, just like they think the only way to do is this like controlled collision, which is going to kind of, they're hoping, jostle. Dimitri will crash his shuttle controlledly into the satellite. It'll knock Tom's shuttle free, and then he can pull Tom off that shuttle, essentially, I think is the idea of what they're going to do. Yeah. But of course, the Russian director finds out that Dimitri's left. He's unhappy. He calls up Calder's bosses on Earth, and they're just like, call up Calder. They're just like, hey, we heard what's happening up there via the Russians for some reason. No one reported any of this to us. So you're, I guess, relieved of duty, and LeBron's in charge now?
Is that what they actually said?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that they relieved him.
Yeah, they relieved him of duty and put LeBron in charge because they're just like, I don't know why we're hearing about this via the Russia. This seems like you should have called us.
I mean, which is fair.
But they're also very calm about it. I was just like, they're very calm about relieving this man of duty.
They're British, that's why.
And of course, LeBron's just like, hey, I don't agree with the idea of like crashing these two ships together. So I think we're gonna just go and just have Dimitri's already on his way. Let's have him just get out there. We'll have him try to just open the door by hand and see if that works, and then we'll decide what to do. And of course, a lot of miniature work, a lot of like space work in this episode.
There's a scene, and I don't know if it's after this or right before this. I think it's right before this, where David is with Michelle, and he goes on this like kind of a monologue about the different people on the crew and like what they do and why they're important, and then he talks about himself and stuff. And I remember watching, and he was like, "And Tom's important because of this, and Michelle, you're important because of this, and all this stuff." And I was like, all this is the little synopsis of what the characters were like in like the lookbook before they pitched the show. Yeah. And it's like, we've seen none of this, by the way. You've spent none of the time in 5 hours of developing any of these characteristics, but I'm glad that you're telling us, instead of showing us in any of the hours we've had, you're telling us, and you're really important because of this, and he's really important because of this. I was like, great, thanks a lot, David.
I mean, I will say in this episode, this is the closest we've come to an episode that is about the main characters of the show. Typically, it's about like other scientists who are messing up in their arcs.
That is true. That's true. We actually, like, Tom actually gets some lines.
Nonetheless, you're right. This is sort of what's happening, is that they're on the way to save Tom. LeBron's in charge. Dimitri flies over, or he does a spacewalk, tries to open the airlock, doesn't work as they expected. And Dimitri's just like, well, I got to do the collision. That's the only option left to us. I got to do this controlled collision, try to knock it free. The Russian director has shown up at this point, and he's just like, we can't do that. It's too risky. We can't risk all these people. And he's like, LeBrun, call off the operation. And LeBrun, I guess to show his character growth, is like, no, let's go through with it. I'm going to let them do the collision and try to save Tom. But they never have a moment where he he's just kind of like, it just sort of happens. He's like, okay, let's do it. Like, I don't know when he changes his mind about it. I guess it's just because he's in the heat of the moment and he's not going to not let it happen. But I understand that the thesis of it is that LeBron needs to see how hard the job is and have to make difficult choices. But it doesn't like really come through in the episode.
No. Yeah, but and I think part of it is because they don't give that the time, because that's not the crux of the episode, right? Because what it really should have been is a fight at the beginning of the episode, and then David's relieved of duty, and then for the rest of the episode, Michelle has to step in his shoes. If that's what the episode, if that's the growth they want to have, right?
Well, they need to see him making a hard decision that he would normally get to make, and he makes the right one instead of the wrong one. But we never they sort of do it here, but it doesn't feel like there's any real pressure on him.
Yeah, agreed.
Anyway, the controlled collision works. Tom is saved. And as the episode ends, they cut back to the space station or the moon base. They're all cracking open cans of champagne to celebrate the successful mission. They're all having a great time. And what I love is the general director from Earth of the European space thing calls them up and is just like, he calls up the screen. It's like, hey, it's me, this general director. Great work, everybody. David, you were right all along. You're reinstated.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you caught this, but, what we're seeing is them celebrating. They've just opened cans of champagne. They're drinking it. They get this call. It makes sense. He's going to get called and get reinstated at the end of the episode to get us back to status quo. But when the screen turns on with this Inspector General, he's already holding a glass of champagne himself as if he'd just been drinking unrelated at his job.
Oh, I didn't notice. That's funny, though.
It's not like
he heard there was a party.
Like, oh, we're celebrating. I'll open one too. It's like he calls like, "Hey, it's me. Oh, don't this glass of champagne. This is my afternoon champagne. Anyway, great work, everybody."
No, it's here. He heard there was a party, and he's like, "Before I make the call, I better get my glass ready."
Yeah, I don't want to seem like I'm not here for the party. Zooming in for this party. Jordan, did you look into this? I don't know if it matters much, but Castor and Pollux is the name of the episode. Do you know what that means?
No, I don't actually.
I had to look it up, and I didn't write it down, so I'm gonna be fuzzy on the details. But I think they're like two Greek or Roman twins in mythology. But I guess what they're famous for is doing dangerous saves or things like that. They're for rescuing people. So I guess the idea is Tom and this pilot are like these two like super rock star twins in space who do the hard things, who do the rescues and stuff like that. But I was like, a good name for an episode.
Except it's not really what this episode is.
Yeah, sure it is. It's about these cool astronauts and they're rock stars.
No, episode 5, dull and boring is what it should be called.
All right, let's move on. Here's the IMDb summary for episode 6, View of a Dead Planet.
Best title so far.
New video cassettes in yet, are they?
No, it didn't arrive in the last shuttle.
That's all I need.
It's the first time they've forgotten.
They must have a strange idea of us, Here we are, dedicated. That's the word, dedicated. Bored to death. But we don't need any entertainment, do we? Because we're dedicated.
Controversy surrounds the Arctic Sun Project, a plan to detonate a hydrogen bomb above the Arctic Circle to melt the ice caps and open up new land for development. And that truncated summary is courtesy of Gus F. again.
I got a better episode this could be again.
That's every episode for you.
It's every episode. I watch this, I go, oh, I know how this could be an actual episode of TV that someone might want to watch.
Well, in this episode, Moonbase 3 is welcoming a famous and prolific 80-year-old scientist named Dr. Ben Rice.
Yeah, Alfred.
And the crew is not happy to have an old on their ship, on their space station.
That was weird, right? There's like these comments, and then David comes in at one point, like a couple scenes in, and he's like, I've been hearing a lot of rumors about people getting angry about old people. But let me just tell you, old people are good too, and have done lots of things. And you never know how good he might be despite him being old, so stop making fun of old people. I was like, this is so bizarre.
It was really weird because especially I think in the scientific community, being a guy who's done amazing work their entire that usually makes them more popular amongst scientists. They're kind of interest. Everyone on this is just old people suck. I don't like old people. Don't bring old people near me. They talk very briefly. Someone's just like, they're joking about it. They're like, I guess the politicians finally got their way, and they're going to start sending elderly people to the moon to reduce cost of care. And I'm just like, there's no way that would be cheaper.
Well, it's like a weird fringe theory or something. But the funny thing about all this is the old guy coming. To what effect is this? To what effect is it that the crew, like, they don't like old people? It's not like it's really important. It means
nothing. No, to the episode itself, nothing.
So it's like it doesn't build any character. It doesn't make any things more interesting. I was like, is this a comment on something at the time I'm not getting?
Yeah, maybe. I was also just like, really against old people. Although, to be fair, when Dr. Rice gets there, he gets off the thing, he walks in, and he sees Dr. Smith, the psychologist.
That's
He's
right.
like, women shouldn't be in science. I'm like, whoa, sir.
Well, but that's the thing. Regardless of any of that, he comes in and he's a dickhead. I mean, that's hard to argue against.
His first lines are just like, "Oh, I'm a dick."
He like walks in and goes, "Woman, have a problem with that." You know, like he's just like he's a jerk. And again, there's something interesting about a different way of doing it. There's lots of things, but like there's someone coming onto the ship who they're a little bit unsure of, but maybe it's that he's so good and he's such a genius. He has such a successful track record that they're a little bit nervous, but then he's also a real jerk, and there's that conflict of how do you deal with this guy that maybe you have this bit of hero worship for him, but he's also an asshole. There's something there, but again, that's not what they do. It's just like his character. You're like, to what purpose? None really.
Well, you know, okay. Old people, they're jerks.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like again, I don't know if it's a joke or it's a comment on something or it's something else. I'm not sure. It just lands flat, and to be honest, kind of a bit of a time waster.
Well, he is a jerk because the crew throws a Bastille Day party for Michel Lebrun, and Rice walks in and gets so mad about it. He hates nationalism. He's stomping around being like, why do we celebrate people's countries? That's the dumbest thing. I'm just like, man, this guy is a spoil sport.
Well, that's a very good point. He's someone who comes and just ruins fun, and it's like, who cares, man? If someone like is proud of something, or someone has a hobby, or someone like, just leave it, just let them enjoy it. Who cares, man? What does it matter to you? It's just like again, is it like the comment of like the old guard doesn't really understand the new way of doing things? You're like, is that what they're saying? Because it has nothing to do with the episode.
Yeah, well, honestly, Dr. Rice, and we're finally going to get into it, he basically exists as a character to provide exposition to explain this episode. And what this is his rant on nationalism tangents into the Arctic Sun Project, which they've implied he's been protesting or he's against on Earth.
Yes.
And the Arctic Sun Project is a joint USA-Russian initiative to detonate a hydrogen bomb over the Arctic. It's going to melt all the ice there, opening up all that land for development and farming and all that stuff. And everyone thinks this is the best idea. Everyone's like, it's going to be so good. Just melting all the ice in the Arctic. And Dr. Rice is like, well, I've been against it. And sounds like a terrible idea.
Well, that's the first thing I think any viewer would think, even at the time of the airing of this episode. Who would possibly think devastating the ecology of a certain area is a good idea? They're like, well, because we need more land. It's like, no, you don't.
It's crazy. I mean, that's not what this episode's about. Like, they just start telling you, it's like, this is what we're doing, and everyone agrees it's cool except for this one guy. And I'm like, it doesn't sound cool, so it's weird. But what's extra weird about it is that Dr. Rice, despite being so vocal about it, he came up with the idea to do this many years ago, and everyone dismissed him early in his career, but he kept going. He got more famous, et cetera, et cetera. And then the U.S. and Russia revived his idea because they needed more land, invited him back to work on it with a Russian scientist. So it's like him and this Russian scientist have been working on the plan to do this. So he's actually the one who instituted the entire thing. Like it's his idea, it's his plan he developed. But late in his calculations, he and the Russian scientist discovered that detonating the bomb would cause a chain reaction in the magnetosphere that would basically ignite the planet into flames. This is the same thing the Manhattan Project fears. We saw it all in the what's his name, the Oppenheimer documentary. No, it was a movie.
I love that Oppenheimer.
The famous how'd they find all that footage of his life? It was crazy.
Yeah. Yes, it's this catastrophic thing that is obviously going to happen, or is very likely to happen if you do such a drastic thing to the world.
Well, that's the premise of it. Is they're stealing that worry they had during Manhattan Project and like mapping it onto this episode. And he said, my calculations show this will happen, but the Russians and the U.S. won't listen to us. We warned them. They don't care. They're going to do it anyway. In fact, the Russian scientist I worked with killed himself over it because he's so depressed that we're going to destroy the world. And I was just like, wait. It sounds like here's the thing. He sounds like he's been like vocally against the project, but nobody's heard about this calculation until he tells them on Moonbase. So I think Dr. X has been walking around being like, I don't like this project, but not explaining why to anyone.
Yeah, maybe that's true.
Because no one, the first they're hearing about this like explosion that's going to wipe out Earth is when he tells the scientists, and I'm just like, they know you're against it, but you've never mentioned why you're against it to anyone at any point of time during your like arguing, which
I guess because he's been
true
ostracized.
To this character.
Isn't it supposed to be because he's been ostracized though? Because he's like no one will listen to him anymore.
I guess so. It doesn't really matter. Like, none of this matters. This is just the exposition they need to set up, and this is how they choose to do it via this character.
Okay, pitch number 1 for a better episode. There'll be multiple pitches. This is pitch number 1.
Okay.
David and the team are given an experiment that they're supposed to do, and it's this experiment, but it's on the moon. They're supposed to do this, set off a nuclear blast or something onto the moon. They are pretty sure, just based on their own scientific knowledge, that this is a terrible idea, but they've given a lot of money, and they will lose all their funding, and they might lose their jobs and livelihood if they do it. There's an episode, The Moral Quandary. That's a better episode, right? Already?
Yeah, I mean, there's more for them to do. The moon is not involved in this episode.
Right? It's funny that they decided to have this set on Earth. I'm like, you guys are on the moon.
Anyway, because everyone dismisses him as an old crank, they just go about their business. And that night, while they're kind of like partying, some people are playing like remote chess. I think Tom Hill's playing remote chess with a Russian. He's just like telechess with them. And like everyone's listening to the radio, just having the usual good time you have on Moonbase. They start getting some interference. The radio goes out. That kind of stuff's happening. And like they look out the window and they're like, awfully hazy on Earth tonight. Looks like the Earth is very hazy tonight. Must be interacting with our... with our whatever radio. And the next morning they wake up and Calder's just like, it's awfully odd. Should we reach out to the I'm kind of messing this up, but I think Calder's like has Tom reach out to the Russians to be like, hey, is anything going on?
Yes, he does.
I'm going to rephrase this. I'm getting all confused in my head, but Earth is hazy. They lose transmissions. Calder's like, hey, Tom, you talk to that Russian guy all the time while you play chess. I don't want us to embarrass ourselves here on Moonbase by asking for help with our equipment. So can you just like call them up and see if everything's cool over there? And like he calls him up on the video phone, and he's just like, hey, it's just me at Moonbase 3. Everything's super cool over here. You guys cool? Any problems? And the Russian guy's like, what? No, why? He's like, nothing, no reason. And they hang up and they're like, case closed. There's no problem.
It plays to this weird thing of like, I would assume if it's in the future and there's all this cooperation for getting these moon bases up onto the moon, that there'd be better communication there'll be a more familiar conversation between these moon bases. One would hope. So I just don't buy this thing that there would still be these partitions in information and how they communicate with one another.
Well, and the question is insane. It's just like at that point they're like, we're having some transmission errors. Like we don't know if it's our equipment or if maybe there's just like some interference from Earth. And like the idea of calling the other moon base and being like, hey, you guys get any interference? We're suffering. We got a little interference here. How's your equipment working? Like the idea that that's too embarrassing to ask is like a wild thing.
I'll say this though, it plays into David's character in that he never wants to admit what's happening.
Absolutely,
he never wants to say the truth, right?
It's absolutely true. But this is what happens. So that happens, and then the next morning, Tom wakes up and he's just like, Calder, I think actually there he might have been lying to me because I played chess with him, and after we talked, he gave me his next move and he put himself in check, which must mean he was distracted, because otherwise why would he have put himself in check? So ipso facto, they must have their equipment must be malfunctioning as well.
I'm glad you explained that because it made no sense to me. Because I was like, what are you trying to tell me? He's like, hey, I could tell you that their machinery must also not be working because of this chess game. And I was like, guys, just stop with how obtuse everything is on this show. It's so dumb.
Anyway, with that information, they're eating breakfast, and someone goes and opens the window, and Earth is now just a cloud of smoke.
Yeah.
Which looked great. It looked amazing.
It's good, and every time you look at one of the windows, and by the way, it answered a question because remember, I think it was either the last podcast or the one before, where we discussed about day and night and that they have this artificial time, and you said, do they have windows? And I was like, I'm not sure. We've never seen them. They do have windows.
They do have windows. They open
so
it up.
there's no reason for them to have artificial day and night. Just saying.
You're still against it.
I'm still against it because you see the sun. Guys, come on, it's the moon.
Yes, Earth has been covered in a cloud of smoke, perhaps even just like is destroyed now, is just rubble. It's hard. We don't know. But obviously, it's bad news. Calder very quickly makes an announcement the planet is dead. He's just like, well, I guess we got to tell everybody, Earth dead, yo.
Okay, but not only does he make that announcement very quickly, he and Tom very quickly, it's either that scene or a couple scenes later, have a conversation about should they and how should they kill the crew in a peaceful way. Like immediately, they're like, things look bad down there. Anyways, we're gonna have to kill everyone on board. I'm like, what?
They only have 2 to 3 weeks of rations. Clearly, the man's was right. The explosion like nuked Earth, and we gotta pump carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. It's the best way to kill everybody.
That's insane. That's your first response is, how are we going to peacefully kill everyone before doing any sort of research or work into how do we extend things? How do we do anything to preserve the life of these people on the ship? I find that insane. And my second thing is pitch number 2, a better episode. Earth looks like it's blown up or there's some sort of catastrophic disaster. And the episode is just the crew deciding what do you do, whether it's from a leadership perspective, David, or if it's from Tom. What if he gets an order that you need to do this sort of thing? Again, the moral quandary is more interesting to me than the bureaucratic mechanism that they're obsessed with on this. They'll be like, oh, and don't say this, and make sure that we get our papers collated in time. It's like, oh, you're so boring. Like, you have characters. Why don't you use them in an interesting way? Like, you've decided to make a television show. Like, I didn't tell you to put this on TV.
I like that your pitch is just the thing you said. I was like, I wish there were more things that were dramatic.
Well, that's in the end. What would be nice is some drama, some tension, some propulsion, some story. Anything that would make this a television episode that you'd want to watch, as opposed to focusing on always the most boring part of the story that they're trying to tell.
I mean, this is your least clear note so far, other than don't be boring.
Well, don't be boring.
Anyway, this is bad news. They've very quickly announced to the crew Earth is dead. Things start falling apart very rapidly. Everyone's getting drunk. Yeah. Which I've said all along, it's like, why is there so much access to alcohol on the Moonbase? I don't know, but everyone immediately is getting wasted.
They only have 2 weeks rations, but they have 6 months worth of alcohol left.
Oh, 100%. LeBrun blows up at Calder when he's drunk, telling him, he's like, you can't tell me when to die. I'll kill myself when I want to. And I'm just like, cool, that's fine. I don't know why you're having this argument. You can. Calder's not saying you can't.
He's like, I told you not to kill yourself. He's like, I will. He's like, I told you not to. He's like, fine.
Just so funny. Calder just stands there as he like rants drunk. He's like, you can't tell me when to die. I'll kill myself when I want. And then Calder's like, okay, I didn't tell you not to, my man.
No, what he keeps saying is, we'll talk about it in the morning. He keeps saying that over and over. We'll talk about it in the morning.
Which is fair. He's very drunk. Also drunk is another crew member who I have no idea who this guy is.
Bruno.
He walks into Dr. Smith's quarters while she's sleeping, very drunk, and very quickly attempts a sexual assault, which is very awful to watch.
Yeah. Now, I personally hate this as a plot point, especially for like your only female character. The only thing you could have is her getting assaulted. It's just like, it's lazy, it's dumb, and it's gross. And the worst part of it is how it's sort of like kind of hand waved off, because basically like he gets attacked, but she's able to somehow, just as it's happening, call David.
Yeah, she calls David, says, "Help me." He runs in and like pulls him off,
stops it. And then blah blah blah.
The next morning,
the next morning, David sort of like calls everyone in to kind of like go like, "Hey guys, we need to be calm. We need to do all these things." And he's like, "And just so you know, someone was a little bit bad last night."
He says there was some quote trouble last night.
Yeah, but don't worry, he's apologized, and we've like let it go. And then
the issue is solved. He says the issue is solved. He apologized.
And not only that, then he starts going around and he basically is making the point that like he goes, "Tom, you haven't shaved," and basically he goes through a couple points of being like, despite what we think is happening, we should still be doing our best job. We should still be holding our self as high as we can, and you know that's the sort of idea.
Yeah.
But then he points to this guy Bruno who just did the sexual assault, and he says, "And look at you, like it's something to like he's not dressed up enough." And I was like, sorry, that's the
worst thing he did this morning.
Yeah, that's the worst thing he did. And I was like, David, you're just the worst.
It is bad. I mean, it is, just related to the politics of the time, but I'm just like, oof, it's rough to come back. It's like, we had some trouble last night, but somebody apologized and everybody agrees it's okay now.
What if the episode was, as much as I hate sexual assault being a plot point because it's just dumb and gross, what if that had happened and either... I can't remember her name. Dr.
Smith.
What if she killed the guy, or David came in and killed the guy, and that's the point of the episode, is them like covering like this guy was a bad guy, and they did something terrible, which is murder him, and now it's like, do you cover it up or not? Is that a better episode?
That's what I mean. It's an episode for sure.
So it's not better.
I don't think it's a better episode. No.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not married to it.
I mean, it does lead into the question. It's like, what if you do have to? Do they have a jail on Moonbase 3? You'd have to have some sort of place to restrain someone.
Luke, you don't need it because it's being resolved.
As long as you apologize, that's all good.
Well, I mean, do you think there's one guy who earlier in the episode blew a hole in the space station doing his experiment. I mean, he died himself, but probably if he had just apologized,
As long as he apologizes, it's fine. It's like it's like
fine.
Rock Guy who faked his results. He apologized, so he can keep going.
That's true.
Anyway, they're kind of like, what do we do now? Like, we need to like pull ourselves together a bit and give ourselves an activity. And Dr. Rice, the old man's kind of just like, hey, what if we all got together and made a repository of all human knowledge, so that if anyone stumbles across our moon in the future, they'll at least be able to find out about the people who lived here once. And that most of the episode is like cutaways to people like recording audio logs or writing down like pictures. It's like, this is a picture of the president.
Let me ask you this, Luke. Let's say you're on this space station and you think you're going to be dying in possibly a few days and stuff, and someone's like, hey, do you want to record some thoughts for posterity? You recording something?
Jordan, we're doing this podcast for sure. That's 100% what we're doing as we die.
No, I'm not doing it.
Jordan, we're gonna die in 3 weeks. We've got to get a backlog of episodes just so we don't we don't miss out on a week or two.
No, they're not asking you to record a silly podcast. They're asking you to be like an authority. So like, no, I'm not doing that. They're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I got to finish a couple books and stuff. I'm busy, guys. Sorry. I'm not shaving.
I think for the purposes of this show, they're all supposed to be scientists too. This is their life's work. So I don't think it doesn't make sense. But it is just like, it's like, what's some busy work we can give them for the last 2 weeks so they're occupied before they die?
What do you think, Dr. Smith? Do you think she's in a good headspace for writing stuff down?
Well, she got that apology.
It's so bad. It's so bad.
It's so bad. Anyway, Tom Hill, meanwhile, is just like, hey, I've got an idea. You know what might be fun to do while we're waiting to die is why don't we send a shuttle down to Earth just to check it out? It might be a suicide mission, but maybe somebody should go look at the cloud-covered Earth and just double-check.
And Michelle's like, no way, we should waste a shuttle. That's money. I don't ever want to do anything. You're like, oh, go away, bean counter.
Well, what's funny is they're like, yeah, all right, let's do it. We'll send a shuttle down there. It's probably a one-way trip, but whatever. I mean, I was also like, whatever. You're going to die either way. Who cares? And the sexual assault guy's like, I'll do it. And they're like, great, you're in charge of that. I'm like, the fuck are you talking about?
Bruno. His name's Bruno.
Bruno. Sure, you haven't done anything bad this morning in the last 45 minutes. Let's send you down.
Know. It's awful.
And what's so funny is they set it up. It's about to go, and then like Bruno runs away and hides on the moon because he's too scared to go because he doesn't want to die. I was like, what? There's like a whole thing. And then LeBron's like, all right, I'll do it then. I'm like, okay, thanks for wasting my time.
That's a classic scene in an episode like this where there's like, they added like a little bit of conflict that has no effect on the episode at all. They're like, hey, I just realized my shoes were untied. Don't worry, tied them. Like, awesome. Glad you kept this scene in.
Well, it's so weird too because they're like the guy who was gonna go, he got scared because it's such a risky mission and like he's afraid to die. Don't you feel sympathy for him? Like, no, we just watched him do the worst thing on earth.
Exactly.
Anyway, LeBron goes down. He eventually gets and like kind of gets to Earth. He's like, I can't see anything. It looks like it's destroyed, and they lose contact with him as he enters the atmosphere. So they're like, well, guess that's that. There's no Earth left. And Calder and Tom are just like, all right, 9:30 tonight. Start the carbon monoxide.
I know. They just go right for it.
And what we see is the crew's there. They're having their final dinner, though. I'm not sure they know they're having their final dinner, but they're all having dinner
No, they
together.
don't. They're just having a celebratory dinner.
They're discussing what fun they've had building this human archive, and they're like, I hope aliens find it one day. And they're like, what? I wonder what those aliens would be like. And one lady's like, giant ants, maybe. And then Bruno, the guy who is gross, is just like, I hope they have 4 breasts. And I'm like, what? And they all start laughing. He's like, I hope they have 2 of every female anatomy. I'm like, this man's a monster.
I get to my earlier point. Whoever's hiring people for the space station, they should lose their job.
Yeah, this is insane. It's just so funny. There's like they're doing this, and like the crew's laughing. And I think we the audience are supposed to be laughing. Like, what a funny thing to say. I'm like, we just watched this monster be a monster. You guys can't keep bringing this character back to have funny one-liners.
Lukey apologized.
I guess so. Anyway, as Tom's about to start the carbon monoxide, which you think would be the ticking clock on this, the TV restarts. It's transmitting the game show, The Golden Handshake. Everything's fine on Earth. They're just going about their business. And then you're like, oh, shit. Well, now we have to have a race against time to stop Tom from starting the carbon monoxide. But then Tom walks in. He's like, hey, guys, I heard the radio turn on, so I didn't do anything. I'm like, okay, so there's not even any threat to Tom accidentally killing them.
Is this when the doctor comes in who hasn't done anything in the episode? At the very end, he comes in.
Hold on. I'll also say this. LeBron immediately calls. He's just like, hey, made it to Earth. Everything's cool here. He explains that the bomb did cause a fog to cover the Earth for several days, and it was shielding transmissions from escaping the planet. But actually, everything's super cool here. We now have more land in the Arctic. If anything, it's lowered the temperature of Earth a little bit, so things are a little bit nicer now, and everything's cool on Earth, so nobody killed themselves.
Yeah, it's dumb. It's so dumb.
But you're right. Dr. Rice now walks in. We haven't really seen him much this episode. He comes in to give a speech.
Yeah, and he gives this speech, and he's like, oh, yeah, my bad. This is something that I guess could have happened. I forgot to mention that. Anyways, we should be careful not to do bad things. And I was like, is that the point of the episode?
It is a weird thing where they're trying to give you more, and it's just like, a man is allowed to make a mistake. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, so you're rationalizing how you scared everyone, I guess, or I don't know. It's fine. Like, it didn't seem like his worries were unfounded, but like whatever. And he's just like, but you know what? Mankind can't make one mistake, or we'll all die. I'm just like, wait, but you did. Mankind just made one mistake, and it turned out fine.
Well, it was like at the end of this episode, they did this like kind of speech, and I was like, wait, you discussed nothing more than like a surface level. What is the speech at the end? It's like that doesn't save it. Doesn't make the episode smarter.
The speech made no sense. Also, I was just like, this is such a weird moralizing like moral that actually like doesn't really connect. I'm just like, I don't really see the connections to what we just. I mean, I kind of get what they're going for, but I'm like, we didn't really see anything that backs this up, though.
Yeah, I agree. It's just like, I don't know. It felt like that was from like another episode or an earlier draft or something, because I was like, is that what we're supposed to learn? It didn't work at all. But to be honest, neither did the episode, at least in my opinion. No,
I mean, I think what it is, they're like this is sort of the themes we wanted to explore in this episode. You know, we ended up going, we tried to work it in, but it didn't exactly come together. But like whatever, we still need a closing speech. So kind of like there's just like they're attempting to tie together like an episode into like a higher thought pattern, but it doesn't. Like if you squint hazily at the smoky Earth, you can kind of see it, but it's not really there.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't have any final notes. Do you want to get under ratings?
Let's do it.
So, of course, there's Castor and Pollux. Tom needs help. Russia comes to the rescue.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to give these some low scores, and obviously I don't like this show. I haven't really hit that much over the last couple episodes. But I'm going to say it's also based on how long I've had to watch this show, because I know it's only been 6 episodes, but it feels so much longer. I guess point is I don't like this kind of show, and it has become concrete while watching this. Like, I don't like this kind of show. A 1.5 out of 10.
1.5. I'm going to say this. I think these last 2 episodes are an improvement on the previous episodes.
Do you?
Only in that, like, I think the space rescue, while not executed perfectly, was like at least there was like a thing happening that had like clear stakes, and like they did some miniature work, and like it was like, all right, well, we're almost at an action adventure episode that you're afraid to do action adventure, so you're constantly pulling it back. But like, I think it was an improvement, like a step towards something more interesting. Not obviously good still. I'm going to go 4.
Okay.
And then View of a Dead Planet.
I don't know, a marginally better episode, 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10. Again, obviously we've talked about it. It's an extraordinarily flawed episode, very dumb, lots of gross things in it. I think the premise, it's the most exciting premise they've had, is that like Earth is dead. I kind of hoped it was going to be the final episode and like Earth was dead and they were just going to die on the moon. I was like, that'd be a cool ending to this show.
Yeah.
I like the Earth covered in clouds. Like, you know, the premise of this one was more exciting than like, there's ice on the moon. Like, some of them have been quite dull. This one at least had like a big high stakes concept, not well executed. A very unfortunate middle bit where they're just a wave away with something terrible happening. I'll go 3.
It's funny you mentioned the execution, because I think, and maybe that's where your mileage will sort of vary on this sort of thing. I was thinking about this show because I was watching this obviously over the last little bit, and a couple nights ago we were just like, let's have a dumb movie night. We'll just sort of like pick movie and have stacks, and Jamie picks a Spice World. Right, that's the movie she picked. I've never seen Spice World, the Spice Girls movie.
How did you avoid that? It's like
I don't
prime
know.
time for you.
Yeah, I watched it, like I kind of got it. It's like this kind of madcap, hard day's night sort of don't take yourself too seriously movie. Like, it's not a good movie. None of the scenes really make any sense, and you could almost put them in any order and it wouldn't really change the movie. But it's kind of fun and silly, and it's got personality. And I'll say this, it's not boring. It's not a good movie, but it's not a boring movie. And I would watch that 1,000,000 times over Moonbase 3. The Moonbase 3 is so self-serious, and it thinks it's such an intelligent show, and I think it's actually quite shallow and simple in its concepts. Like you said before, like you're like, that's a pretty good like premise of an episode. I agree. But the execution is everything. Premises are fine and dandy, but if you don't execute it, who cares? And they don't execute it ever. They bat 0 on this show. Every single interesting idea they have, they whiff on it. Every single chance for any sort of character development or anything, they miss it. So like, that's great to have a cool idea. Cool, a moon base that they have to solve science problems. Cool, what are you going to do with it? And the answer is absolutely nothing. It ends up becoming just a boring, slow, huge waste of time. And it's like, and I'm actually bummed because it's like, because you have to watch this thing and it's like, guys, like anything, make it even slightly entertaining. And there's like, no, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, we know.
All right, well, I've made my point.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a very good show. There's no question about that. It's got some very dull, very committed to science fact without any like thought to like any entertainment value. So what are you gonna do?
Yeah, but no, historically, like people like this show, right? Like, do people look back on this fondly?
No.
Okay.
I haven't looked too much. I saw some reviews of it on Amazon, and like some people are like, "Oh, cool show! I really like it." Like, you know, some people like obviously are just like, "It's fun, I like it." But there's also as many reviews being like, "Huge miss," So that's someone who bought it. So like obviously, even people who are like into this kind of thing and willing to forgive some faults, I think it's a pretty universal. Just like, you could do a lot better than this.
Right. But as someone who's probably likes this sort of thing more than me, I think in terms of the Venn diagram, you're more over on this side. I know you don't like this thing, and you think it's a miss as well. But like obviously not as strongly as I find. Do you think there's more redeemable qualities than I'm finding? I'm being unfair?
I mean, you have very low threshold for anything you consider boring, for sure.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
Listen, this I think it's not like the thing is like I think premise wise it's fine, but it's I think they mishandle it. It's a dull show. They're too committed to realism at the sacrifice of literally everything else. They're committed to realism, and they're committed to that very, I think maybe at the time like British sensibility of you shouldn't have much like people don't conflict with each other because that's like our personalities. So as a result, though, you just get like there's no conflict between anybody. It's like we're gonna have to all die. Of course, you're all gonna have to die. You have 3 weeks of food left. At some point, you're gonna have to talk about that. But there's there is LeBron gets upset about it, but like Tom and Calder just have a nice dull conversation about we'll just turn on carbon monoxide. Like okay, cool. I'm like it's not this doesn't make for good viewing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you probably make a good point though. It's the focus on one thing at the behest of everything else, and your feelings on that will vary based on how much that frankly annoys you, or how much that sort of like you're not bothered by that sort of thing. But yeah, it's like we've talked before. Like, would you recommend this show to someone?
No, of course not. Well, I mean, do you want to? I'll tell you what. I'll punch in the computer now. I'll just tell you what the final rating for the show is.
Yeah. What is it?
It's not good.
I mean, I've killed the ratings.
No, you haven't. Your ratings were good for it. Was the problem?
Oh, really?
You gave this 6s and 5s.
Oh, to begin with? Yeah, I got irritated as we went.
So I think it's a little higher than it even should be as a result.
Really?
Because the final number's coming in at 3.29.
No, that's about right. A 3 to 10 is about right.
I think this is closer to maybe a 2.5 in theory.
Yeah, I mean it's again. I know that I'm probably I don't know if I'm in the minority on this sort of thing, but it's just like this sort of thing is just I just am kind of amazed at that at the misses. I guess that's my major problem is I can see the potential and it feels like I'm like are we on the same planet here? Like, what are we talking about? Like, you guys seem to be just they have very different goals than I as a viewer have.
Yeah. I think one of the things I read was that they very early on brought a science advisor in to make it as realistic as possible. And I think in a lot of ways, and I think the creators have said this themselves, is that it was a botched attempt. And I think they were just like, we are going to try to give science as much of like the lead on this. And so as a result, what it is just like too even-handed, too low drama. Just they're so obsessed with just like what would really happen, and it's just like probably it would really be boring. You're right, it would probably just be really boring. Like
yeah,
if you brought a camera into a science lab, it'd probably be pretty dull.
Yeah, no, but it's a good point, and I think I said this in a previous episode we were doing, is that it felt almost sometimes like you were watching a behind the scenes, like a camera that's just placed in an office, but not in a good way. Not in that like, hey, it's like an office, but like we're all a little bit quirky. Or it just was like, let's just watch the minutia because that's what we're interested in. And I don't know who it's for. Maybe it's like people who really like science. Yeah, maybe they didn't know.
I mean, everything that I've read says the creators also are just like, yeah, we messed up. They're just like, we took a big swing at something that we thought was interesting. We wanted to get away from fantasy. We wanted to get away from Doctor Who. So we went the exact opposite direction. But they overcorrected.
Right. Well, and that's it. I mean, look, but we watched it. We watched all 6 episodes of a Moonbase 3. So if anyone's like, "Hey, did you ever watch that?" I'll be like, "Yep."
You won't remember. You'll forget this immediately.
No, I won't remember. I'm like, "No, I never saw it." And you're like, "No, you did. You have audio recording," and I'll be like, no, I don't think I watched it.
How many of the shows we've watched do you think you even remember having viewed? 30%?
You know what? It's probably, I'd say 30-40%. It gets hard as time goes on. Things shrink,
You don't have to tell me.
Oh man,
I don't know what that
Imagine they had-
means. I don't know what that means.
it sounded like it was kind of like a dirty joke. Imagine they just had something like that in the episode.
All right, Jordan. That wraps it up for Moonbase 3. I think we've had enough of it. You've had enough of it for sure.
I have had enough of it, yeah.
You can email us at continuumdrag@gmail.com. Tell Jordan how
wrong I am.
How right he is. Tell him how right he is. Tell him he's correct.
Yeah, be the first person to write it and tell me how right I am.
And on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Blue Sky, we're gonna have clips from these episodes. There's good miniature work. There's lots of good effects work from this period. It's the one thing this show kind of does right is it looks good. It looks good for its period.
Agreed. I will say that, and I think I said it before. I really like the moon look, and every time they go into the moon, it looks really good. And I actually like the effects of moving in the suits and everything. And actually, the ships don't look bad. The effects are good. That part you can't fault.
For its low budget TV nature,
Yeah.
They did a great job with it. The thing is and I think probably part of what drives you so insane is you're looking at a thing that has all the elements in place that they're just not using.
Yeah.
But you can see that at Continuum Drag is the handle on all those social media platforms. And that wraps it up for Moonbase 3. So, listener, thank you for joining us on all of this. And, Jordan, I'll see you on the next one.
I'll see you then.
Can't get enough Continuum Drag? Commission a bonus episode for charity.
Want us to watch an episode we missed after using the escape pod or during a best of run? No problem.
Is there an episode of a series we've never watched or a TV movie you want us to cover? You got it.
Wish we'd comment on your favorite movie, content, or other weird media? Sure, why not?
All you have to do is make a donation to one of the charities selected by past guests on our website.
We suggest a donation of $50 per television hour of content we're watching, but everyone's means are different, so give what you can.
Get all the details about bonus episodes for charity on our website, continuumdrag.podbean.com, or follow the links in our social media profiles.
Continuum Drag is recorded in Ontario, Canada, and Seoul, South Korea. Theme music by James Rick Seidler. Produced by Jordan Dullock and Luke Black. Special thanks to Aaron Hughes.